In 1967, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said this: "Power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against love." That's what it means with what he just said. God's going on. God's going on, not that personality of, gee, we're going to invoke God on our team so that our team will win the football game, or gee, we're going to invoke God for our side so we're going to win the battle in Iran. We're not doing that. We don't do that here. We won't do that here. If that's something you want to do, you're going to be disappointed, because we don't do that in this place. But what we do invoke is an awareness of our connection as and with and in this infinite spirit, this infinite power, which is God. And yes, there will be reactions. Yes, there will be stuff to deal with. But the real truth here is that God's going on. And to the degree that we recognize that and live in that and become, again, practitioners. Ernest Holmes, who founded this teaching, said that we are here to be practitioners of this teaching, to be practitioners of love, to be practitioners of God. Now, yes, we have licensed professional practitioners, but one who practices this, one who practices love, one who practices God, one who practices compassion and the presence and knowing truth and loving, all of that, that makes you a practitioner. We are here to be practitioners of God, to invoke a deep awareness, not just for us, but for all beings everywhere. So you might have noticed this week, and I promise I will end us up on a high note. First of all, I want to say my original talk title for this week was "Wherefore Art Thou Abundance?" We're talking this whole month about abundance, and abundance is not about money. It is about a deep, huge, overwhelming awareness and practice of knowing we are sourced by the infinite itself, the invisible infinite, the divine sublime, whatever you want to call it, that we are channels for that. We are great, big, everybody bless that and know that healing is happening. We are great big conduits for the presence and power of God. We are. So, this week, you might have heard the Supreme Court gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I will come back to abundance, by the way. But I shifted my talk to wherefore try it again. Wherefore art thou freedom? So, Supreme Court did that, and it is one of the most hard-won pieces of civil rights legislation in American history. Here's the practical consequence. It is significantly harder for black voters and voters of color to challenge electoral maps designed to dilute their political power. Now, it didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened in a specific moment when democracy itself is feeling, I'm going to say, fragile in ways that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. So my reaction to this was probably much like yours. I'm a white girl from Newport Beach, so I've never had to fight for anything other than, I want my Egg McMuffin now. How come that guy pulled in front of me? That's really kind of my battle. Few glass ceilings, and we've dealt with those. I have a white son. We have a white son. Charlie is my husband, guitar player, in case you didn't know. He's 27 now. We never had to worry about him walking around in a hoodie. Never a problem. But to say that this did not hit me and gut me like it did, I'm sure many of you, most of you, all of you, I don't know, I can't speak for you. To say that that didn't happen would be disingenuous, because this idea of oneness, when one of us is affected, we all are. And when one of us is rising up, we all are. When one of us is limited by something out there, then we all are affected by it. So make no mistake, this is about all of us. Now, my first response was to after I wanted to curl up in a fetal position under my piano with a lot of Chardonnay and chocolate, my next reaction was to just go to war, go to battle, go to hate, go to anger, go to all of that. And I've had to bring myself back into a remembrance that God is going on, that God is going on, that God is going on. Oh, and how does that happen? Through me. Oh, crap. Yet Wayne Dyer said that conflict cannot survive without our participation. I thought, okay, well, I can be a deep, really good participant in this. But there are other areas of love, of presence of life that I want to become better at participation. Some of you are angry. That's very appropriate. Some of you are exhausted. That exhaustion is earned. And some of you are sliding towards cynicism, toward the quiet, protective conclusion that none of this matters, nothing works, and why bother anyway? So that last place, the hopeless cynicism place, is where I want to spend some time this morning. And I don't want to look at it just superficially, because I want to look at it honestly. Because cynicism feels like wisdom when you're tired enough. Have you noticed? It feels like wisdom. And it can really get you going. And when we feel like that there's this energy flowing through us, I got to react, I got to do something, we want to say we're inspired, but no, we're actually just filled with a lot of cortisol and adrenaline, because cortisol and adrenaline will make you go like this, but inspiration will make you go like this. So my desire today, my intention is to move any of us who are here to here. You might come back to here. In the afterglow of the service this afternoon, after you've walked out for, feeling good for an hour, you might, round about tea time, come back to a sense of, oh man, but my idea here is to give us all tools so that we can remember God's going on. Science of Mind is a teaching about consciousness and causation. So here's a spiritual diagnosis about what is actually happening here. Ernest Holmes taught that we are cause to our lives. We are cause to our lives. Our beliefs held consistently, operating mostly below our conscious awareness, tend to produce after their kind. Can we all agree on that? Okay, see, you are so well schooled. So, which means the first question is not, what do we do about the Supreme Court? The first question is, what is this moment revealing about the consciousness operating in this nation? That's the question. In fact, I'm going to go deeper than that. What is the consciousness operating in us? Fear consciousness produces conditions of lack, of suppression, and the need to protect power by diminishing the power of others. A legal system that can only maintain itself by suppressing the voice of specific human beings is not operating from abundance, it's operating from fear. And the fear is that there isn't enough, that power is scarce, that full representation for all people somehow diminishes the representation of some people, that the full flowering of every expression of the divine is a threat rather than a gift. That is the consciousness that is going on. That's what this ruling expresses. Fear consciousness can produce temporary conditions. It cannot produce permanent reality. I want you to remember that. Fear, you've heard the acronym, false evidence appearing real. You've heard that. If you haven't, you just did. And so, the honest internal inventory we all have to do, because this is where it comes back to participating in the one mind, is what is the most active belief within you right here and now? What is the most active belief within you? We are cause to our experience. And what I know, and I was reading some of Howard Thurman today from his book, Jesus and the Disinherited. Howard Thurman was an incredibly powerful spiritual teacher and minister, and he was one of the persons who mentored Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so those of us who are inclined to get very, very emotionally empathetic, and I'm one of those, and I'm going to say we're all that at some level or another, the first place we want to go, first place I want to go is, God, how? What? I hate these people, right? Anybody else? See, I knew I wasn't alone. But here's the thing, and this is what got me. I almost wept when I read this. He wrote, above and beyond all, it must be borne in mind that hatred tends to dry up the springs of creative thought in the life of the hater. Oh, man. So that his or her resourcefulness becomes completely focused on the negative aspects of his environment. So in other words, if we are looking for evidence, we're going to find it. It's a bias that we have, right? It's a confirmation bias. And if we can begin to look for evidence, and I'm going to tell you that here in this room, we've got roughly 80 to 100 people and then probably another 40 or 50 online. That's almost 200 pieces of evidence that there's more here going on, that God is going on, and it is not just about what happened this week. Does that mean we don't take action? Oh, hell no, we take action. But we start first with the awareness of what is the dominant thought that we have going on. And if it's hate, it will absolutely dry up all of the creative reserves that you and I have, which right now, I'm going to say that's life. I am not in any way, shape, or form down with the idea of drying up my life, my own source, my own creative reserves, because that's what gives me energy, that's what gives me freedom, that's what gives me hope. That's what creativity does for each one of us, that if we are anchored in a place of hate for justices on the court or other people who don't look like us or who wear red hats with lettering on them, that we have effectively taken a knife and gone like this to ourselves. And sorry, I'm not doing that. And I hope you won't either, because that is not effective. That is not being a practitioner of love. That's not being a practitioner of God. The urgent needs of the personality for creative expression are starved to death. A man's horizon became so completely dominated by the intense character of his hatred that there remains no creative residue in his mind and spirit to give to great ideas, to great concepts. He becomes lopsided. To use the phrase from Zarathustra, he becomes a cripple in reverse. Jesus rejected hatred. It wasn't because he lacked the vitality or strength. It was not because he lacked the incentive. He rejected the hatred because he saw that it meant death to the mind, death to the spirit, death to communion with his Father. He affirmed life, and hatred was the great denial. Hatred was the great denial of that affirmation of life. To him, it was clear, thou must not make division. Thy mind, heart, soul, and strength must ever search to find the way by which the road to all men's need of thee must go. Here is the highway of the Lord. That's from his poems, from Howard Thurman. And that word Lord means law of love. It doesn't mean personality God up in the sky. It means that law of love. It occurred to me today, and I've talked about this before. I'm going to do some Bible now, so buckle up. And I'm not a Bible kind of girl, but this matters. Old Testament, we hear about David and Goliath, right? You all know David was the guy who took his trusty slingshot, which isn't just Bart Simpson, it's Goliath. It's David. And Goliath was the monster, the big monster, who with all of the other soldiers he was like 5 cubits wide, 5 cubits high. That's Bible math. I don't do Bible math. I don't even do real math, so come on. He was really, 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 really big. And everybody said, David, you're the only one left who can save us. You're the one who can save us. Here, put on all of your armor. Put on all of your protective stuff. Just cover yourself up. And so he was completely covered, and he couldn't see. He couldn't see, right? I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Christmas Story, where the little boy is so wrapped up in his warm clothes, good, one person, where he can't even walk, well, that was David. And they said, well, you got to have that. You got to have all of this protection on because the monster is there. Now, Let's look at what this means metaphysically. Metaphysically means above the physically, above and beyond the physical manifest interpretation or understanding. So we're going to look at what this means. The monster is the big fear, the big enemy. Thought not held in dominion. All of those thoughts that are racing like crazy, saying, you're not going to win. Other people are stronger than you. You don't have enough money. You don't have enough freedom. You don't have enough this. You don't have enough that. That's what Goliath is. And we all have Goliaths in our life. And right now I'm going to say that in this country, we've got some big old freaking Goliaths going on. So David could not see. He was fully armored. And that means, and again, I look at this as more of a mythology, more of an allegory than historical fact. And if you choose to look at it as historical fact, God bless you, go ahead and do it. And I want to offer a greater idea to apply, to map onto that. And that's that. When we are so protected by our physical constructs, by our beliefs, by our safe perceptions, by our old ideas, by manifest or material things, when we are so protected, we are shut off from our spiritual vision. David had shut off his material vision because he anchored so much in the manifest, in the material, as opposed to the spiritual. He could not see the truth. We do this. It's called television. We have a choice. Will we go for spiritual vision or television? Spiritual vision opens us up, gives us the information, puts us back in dominion of our thinking, of our beliefs, makes life clear so that we know that that which is before us is not a barrier out here, but it is a thought here that we are now being called. And by the way, if we get the call, it means we're ready. We are ready to change. We are ready to transform. We are ready to uplift. We are ready to heal. So when that wound appears, when that injury appears, it's not just about the wound or the injury. It means that now we're bringing it up to here, to where we can see it with a spiritual vision. And now is where the real good work begins. The good trouble begins. So David took off the armor. He took off all of that stuff, got his slingshot out. There were 5 stones in his little pouch. Those 5 stones represent the 5 pillars of truth. God is all there is. We are part of God. God shows up as that which I declare, accept, believe, and will hold and know that I'm worthy of. Thank you very much. Let it go. 5 pillars of truth. He took those stones and heaved them at the monster. Now, here's the thing. What he really did was he took thought. He took spiritual thought, spiritual truth, spiritual vision, and it hit right here, the intellectual center. And it destroyed the appearance. It destroyed Goliath. It took the life out of Goliath. We are called to bring forth our deepest spiritual truth, deeper than we've probably ever had to go before, and to absolutely apply spiritual vision, spiritual truth, spiritual reality to this situation in which we find ourselves right now. Does it mean we don't protest and demonstrate? Of course not. It means we do. And we do it first from the knowing that we go within and we recognize that hate is not going to inspire. It will not guide. It will not lead. It will not shift. It will not do anything except strangle us. I don't want any of us in this community to be strangled. I really don't, because I love all of you and I would miss you. I don't want to be strangled. I don't know if you'd miss me, but I know my cats would, so. Well, no, they'd probably eat me. The dog would miss me, but. We are to take spiritual truth and to put it where that appearance is. And yes, we show up. We do the work. We absolutely do the work. You write those postcards. I write postcards. You make those calls. I make those calls. I used to, and now I'm going to have to do it again. I had the White House on my speed dial on my phone. So, you do that. And you do all of that knowing that it is guided, that there is an intention behind it, and that it's not just a reactive, oh my God, I'm just going to go crazy now. No, I have a job to do. We have a job to do. Because here's the thing, fear becomes, when another party recognizes, when somebody else recognizes that fear is present, then they are able to take that fear and use it as a tool, right? Use it as a tool. Now they can do something with it. And so then we react in despair, and that's the whole thing, because despair can be weaponized. When despair is weaponized, it means that we have stepped out of being in dominion of our own thinking, of our own knowing of love, of our own dedication and commitment to living as divine spirits of God. Now, I don't say this from an evangelical standpoint, and it may sound like it, like, come on, guys, let's go. Capture the flag, whatever it is. I'm not trying to do that. What I want you to know is, this one just flew into my brain. One with God is a majority. One with God. We are all one with God. And until we can move beyond it's us and them and take that idea of majority and include everybody, oh God, I knew she was going to say it. Don't you hate when she says that stuff? If we can take that idea of one with God, because we are all one with God, if we can, that's what I want to weaponize, is our oneness. Right? Weapon might be the wrong word for that. I'm sure it is. But we can empower that. We can use that as the biggest tool in our arsenal. So, because we can fall into one of the specific dangers of this moment, which is cynicism. Cynicism is lack consciousness dressed in sophistication. Right? Very sophisticated to be cynical. I think it was Cory Booker who said, cynicism is the last refuge of the coward. Pretty good, huh? But in our terms for this teaching, for the science of mind and spirit, religious science, cynicism is a decision to treat the temporary condition as a permanent reality. Are you believing that this is how it ends? No. Are you believing that the moral arc of history has stopped bending? Are you believing that the consciousness of fear is more powerful than the consciousness of love? And this is where we all have to check ourselves, sometimes on a daily basis, sometimes hour by hour, or even more often than that. Because cynicism that masquerades as intelligence is a lie. It's a deception. And we deceive ourselves if we think that that's so, that we are being wise and really smart and intelligent by being cynical. Ernest Holmes said, I am an expression of the infinite, not a fragment of it, not a reflection of it, but an actual expression of it. That's absolutely true of everyone in this room, of everyone on this planet, and no court opinion can change that spiritual reality. No court opinion can change that. So the question is whether we are willing to hold the truth consistently, stubbornly, even defiantly in the face of a legal system that is currently arguing otherwise. We get to stand in truth. So again, when fear is marshaled, despair becomes weaponized. When despair is weaponized, oh man, and here it is. Hope is the victim. Hope is the casualty. Hope is collateral damage. Now, here's part of it, too. With religious science, we know that we live in the here and now, so we don't have the luxury of waiting for things to get better or waiting for our own sense of our connection with God to grow, to feel like we're more whole, more healed, more empowered, and then we'll go forward and we'll change the world. We don't have that luxury. We don't have the luxury of getting healed first and then making the world better. Our healing happens through our showing up. We become that thing that we wish to see. We become the change we wish to see in the world. Anybody? right? We become that change. We live as that change. We live not just as the vision, we live into the vision of what we want. We have to live into it, live as it, not in a place of denial and pretend or spiritual bypass, but doing the work. Because spiritual growth demands work. Love demands work. Possibility demands work. Healing demands work. And none of this happens to us in a vacuum. It happens through us in presence. It happens through us in presence. You know, the Course in Miracles says this directly. Every encounter with another person is either an expression of love or a call for love. Our function is to respond to both. Not after we've worked through our stuff, but in the working through. The working through. So the encounter, and Course in Miracles calls it the Holy Encounter, the encounter is our curriculum. That is our curriculum. And that means showing up at voter registration isn't just activism, it's treatment and action. It's actually being that demonstration. And if you're new to this teaching, what I mean by that is when we do our spiritual work, our affirmative prayer work, and we are seeking to have a particular result from that, we call that result a demonstration. And we don't just do the work as if we are praying to God up here, we pray from God here. And then we listen for that information, that guidance, which only comes from here, that says, this is what you're going to need to do to prepare for that demonstration. Get ready, it's going to come, so you better be ready. So if you are doing your spiritual work, we call it treatment, spiritual mind treatment for a new house, you better show yourself that you believe it and that you're serious, or at least move into what it would look like if you believed it and start packing boxes. If you are doing the spiritual work, the treatment work, and you want a demonstration of liberty, of freedom, of power, empowerment, and presence in this world, and forgiveness and compassion, then we have to do the work of living as that empowerment now, of living as that compassion now, of being bigger than we are, much bigger than we are, so that we can embrace all beings and know a higher truth for all of us. And it's not just that Southern thing of, oh, bless their heart. It's not that. It's God bless all of us, that we are that blessing. Because when we bless something, we are actually calling forth the highest divine activity within them to show itself and to unite with our high divine activity. Yes. Do you get that?
Yes.
So when you bless someone on the Supreme Court, or perhaps a president that you are in opposition to, you're not endorsing that behavior. You're not approving of it. You're not agreeing with it. You're not making any of it okay, because that's not your job. But what you are doing when you bless someone who is in direct opposition to what you know, what you believe, and what you sense and feel is the heart of democracy, the heart of love, the heart of compassion, the heart of possibility in this country, when you bless that person, that idea, that thing, you are calling forth a higher vision. You are calling forth the higher expression of spirit. You are calling forth healing. You are calling forth the actual activity of God here and now in a powerful, manifest, demonstrable way. And that applies to this moment. It applies to your abundance. It applies to your health. It applies to your healing. It applies to your relationships. It means all of it, that we bless, because that is the greatest power we have. And in our spiritual work, our treatment work, all of that with our practitioners, we cultivate the deep, huge, overwhelming, saturated abundance that there is one mind, one power, one presence. I call it God, and it is perfect, and it is absolutely truth about each and every one of us here. Always, 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 in all ways. Let's pray. Thank you. Truth springs from within. The power and presence that is seeking right here and right now to be expressed in a higher way is that which we nurture and which we know that we water those seeds. We nurture those seeds. We believe in those seeds. They do not come from judicial decree. They come from the deep, holy, high truth that God is all there is. God will not be legislated. God will not be limited, and neither will we. So we bless, oh my God, we bless this country, calling forth the highest activity of spirit within ourselves and with everybody else, knowing that the wisdom, which is absolute love, absolute truth, the high and holy expression of freedom, because Ernest Holmes said that every being's innate voice and draw and need is for freedom. And we know that. It is freedom of love, freedom of expression, freedom of peace, freedom of absolute, rights in the material world and growth in the spiritual world. We know this to be so. And within ourselves now, we seek to remove the barriers to love. We remove our barriers to fear so that it can be revealed and dissolved and shown to be exactly what it is. Nothing, no thing. Fear is no thing. So we allow it to be dissolved back into the no-thingness from which it has come, knowing that we are here as that great I am. The great I am. I am that. I am that. I am that. I am. And we know that for ourselves. We know it for this community. We know it for all communities, all churches, all synagogues, all paths to God. Ashram, mosque, temple, cathedral, all paths to God. Wherever two or more are gathered, the light shines brighter, and that is a light of freedom. It is the innate call to freedom from our souls. It will not be denied. It shall not be denied. It shall not be legislated. And we stand in clear dedication and commitment to knowing that right where we are, God is. All is well. All will be well. All is God. I am grateful for this. Oh, I am so grateful. So with a full and grateful heart, we release this word into the activity of the law, of God's spiritual law, knowing that these words do not return unto us void, that they are absolutely right here and now, already expressing this prayer is the demonstration, and we are demonstrations of it as well. So I say, and so it is. And together we say, amen.